Okay, tonight is the 20th of August 2011, and we come to the Sutta Nipata. In the Khuddaka Nikaya talks, we already finished the third book, Udana, the fourth book, Itivuttaka. Now we come to the fifth book, Sutta Nipata. Sutta Nipata can be translated as section of suttas or group of suttas or collection of suttas even. Of all the books in the Khuddaka Nikaya, I think this one is the most important. It consists of 5 chapters, totaling 71 suttas. And some of the suttas are among the oldest in the Pali Canon and not found elsewhere. Also, some of it are very inspiring. Now, we come to the first chapter called the Uragavagga, the chapter of the snake. The first sutta is Uragavagga Sutta, the snake skin. It's about the monk who discards all human passions compared to a snake that casts its skin. 1. He who gives up anger which has arisen, as a snake poison diffused in the body is removed by antidotes or herbs, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. 2. He who has completely destroyed lust, as one cuts off a lotus flower in a lake, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. Stop here for a moment. To give up anger, to give up lust is extremely difficult, because as long as we have an ego and something does not go our way, anger will easily arise. Anger, if it's not too much, it's still bearable. When a person has too much anger, it can affect the whole body and also affect other people. Some people are moved by anger to violence, even kill somebody. So to give up anger is extremely difficult. And to give up lust. Lust is one of our natural tendencies. Lust means extreme greed for something that you like. The more you like something, the more you want it. So that's why it's so difficult to cut off lust. But if you can do this, give up anger, give up lust, then just like the snake poison is removed by antidotes or by herbs, then you give up the cycle of existence. You can only do this on 2 conditions. One is you understand the Dhamma very well. You have the right view. And secondly, your mind is strong enough. And the mind cannot be strong enough until you have attained jhana, one-pointedness of mind. The third one, he who has completely destroyed craving, like drying up a once swiftly flowing river, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. Craving also difficult to give up. 4. He who has completely destroyed pride, like a weak bridge of reeds swept away by a mighty flood, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. This pride is concerned with our ego. As long as we have ego, we have pride. That's why the livelihood of a monk, the Buddha, one of the cornerstones of a monk's life, the Buddha wanted the monks to go on alms round, Pindapata, to cut our pride. If you go on alms round, you're a beggar. Like in the previous sutta, we read that it is one of the lowest means of livelihood to beg, going around with a bald head and alms bowl, begging for food. That is precisely because we want to destroy pride, ego. Fifth, he who does not see any substantiality in forms of becoming or existence, as one does not find flowers on a fig tree, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. You can see any substantiality, that means any core. This core is connected with the atta. Atta or anatta. Anatta is no atta, no self, meaning there's no core, no essence, something permanent, something everlasting. In the whole universe, you cannot find. Everything is changing. Nothing stays the same. 6. He who has no ill temper within him and who has overcome all forms of becoming, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. 7. He who has destroyed, here it says speculations, you can say unwholesome thoughts, well cut off without remainder, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. If you can cut off firstly unwholesome thoughts, later if you can attain the second jhana, then you cut off all thoughts entirely in the second jhana. Once you do that, then the mind becomes more peaceful because it understands that there is another type of happiness free from thinking. 8. He who is neither, here it says restless, you can say, he who is, first I read this translation, he who is neither restless nor indolent and who has overcome all such impediments, that monk gives up the cycle of existence. He who is neither restless nor indolent. There's another translation, is that he who has neither transgressed nor caused another to transgress, that means to do wrong. He doesn't do wrong, he doesn't cause others to do wrong. Then he gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. So sometimes I see this Pali, I can translate it different ways. 9. He who is neither restless nor indolent, same thing, and knows that all in the world is unsubstantial, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. 10. He who is neither restless nor indolent, and knowing that all is unsubstantial, freed from greed, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. He who is neither restless nor indolent, or transgress or cause others to transgress, and knowing that all is unsubstantial, freed from lust, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. 12. He who is neither restless nor indolent, and knowing that all is unsubstantial, freed from anger, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as the snake sheds its old decayed skin. He who is neither, 13. He who is neither restless nor indolent, and knowing that all is unsubstantial, freed from delusion, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as a snake sheds its old decayed skin. 14. He who has no unhealthy tendencies whatsoever and has completely destroyed the roots of evil, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as a snake sheds its old decayed skin. 15. He who has no anxieties whatsoever, which are the causes of entering this world, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as a snake sheds its old decayed skin. 16. He who has no cravings whatsoever, which cause attachment to becoming, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as a snake sheds its old decayed skin. 17. He who has eradicated the 5 hindrances, freed from confusion, having overcome doubts and sorrow, that monk gives up the cycle of existence as a snake sheds its old decayed skin. You can see from here, it's not easy to give up the cycle of existence unless you give up all these things which to a normal human being is desirable. Now we come to 1.2, Danya Sutta. It's a dialogue between Danya, the herdsman, and the Buddha. Danya was a herdsman who lived at the time when the Buddha was staying at Savatthi. It was the monsoon season, just before the onset of rain. Danya says, I have cooked my rice and milked the cows. I dwell with my people near the bank of the Mahi river. My house is thatched. The fire is kindled. Therefore rain, O cloud, if you like. Just like now, we can tell the rain deva to rain if he likes. The Buddha said, I am free from anger, free from passion. I abide for the night near the bank of the river Mahi. My house or body is uncovered. The fire of passion is extinguished. Therefore rain, O cloud, if you like. Then Danya says, gadflies and mosquitoes are not to be found. My meadows are abounding with grass on the marshy land. The cattle can endure the rain when it comes. Therefore rain, O cloud, if you like. The Buddha says, by me is made a well-constructed raft. I have passed over the floods to Nibbana. There is no further use of the raft. Therefore rain, O cloud, if you like. And Danya says, Gopi, my wife, is not wanton and is obedient to me. For a long time she has lived with me pleasantly. Of her I do not hear any evil whatever. And the Buddha replies, my mind is obedient and is free from passion. For a long time it has been trained and well subdued. So evil is not to be found in me. And Danya says, I am self-employed and support myself. My sons are all healthy. About them I do not hear any evil whatever. And the Buddha says, I am no one's servant. With the gaining of my object, I wander through the world. There is no need for me to serve. And Danya says, I have young bulls and calves, also cows in calf and heifers, and a bull who is leader of the herd. And the Buddha replies, I have neither young bulls nor calves, neither cows in calf nor heifers, nor a bull who is the leader of the herd. And Danya says, the stakes are firmly fixed. The ropes made of munja grass are new and well made. Even the young calves are not able to break them. And the Buddha says, having broken the fetters like a bull, as an elephant having broken the Putilata creepers, so there will be no more rebirth for me. Then all of a sudden a shower poured down, filling all the levels and hollows. Hearing the roaring of the storm, Danya spoke the following words, great indeed is the gain that we see the Blessed One, the Omniscient One. To you we come for refuge. O great seer, be our refuge. Both my wife and I will be obedient to you in the dispensation of Sugata, the Welcome One. We shall lead the holy life, overcoming birth and death. We will make an end of suffering. Mara now appeared to tempt him. And Mara says, he who has children delights on account of the children. He who has cattle likewise delights on account of cattle. For the delights of man are on account of acquisitions, upadi, alone. He who has no acquisitions has no delight. And the Buddha replied, he who has children has grief on account of his children. He who has cattle has grief on account of cattle. For acquisitions are the cause of sorrows of men. But he who has no acquisitions has no sorrow. So if you have any acquisitions, any property, that is the cause of our sorrow. So this Mara, this man, you see, after the Buddha sort of convinced him that the Buddha is enlightened, straight away he wants to lead the holy life with the wife under the Buddha. But Mara came to tempt him, reminding him of all the property. So it doesn't say in the end actually whether he did go forth or not with the wife. Now we come to 1.3, Khagga Visana Sutta. Here it says unicorn's horn. Some other places it says rhinoceros horn. Actually, the word Khagga means sword or something very sharp. And Visana means horn. And the Indian rhinoceros is unlike the African rhinoceros. Indian rhinoceros has only one horn. I think the African rhinoceros has two horns. So they say as lonely as a rhinoceros horn. But actually, I think this word Khagga Visana means rhinoceros only. Because I looked up the English Pali dictionary, I looked for the word rhinoceros, it is Khagga Visana. Okay. Having abandoned the harming of living beings, not tormenting even one of them, let one not wish for a son, not to speak of a friend. Let one live alone like a rhinoceros, or let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Attachment arises from companionship. Dissatisfaction proceeds from attachment. Observing the perils resulting from attachment, let one live alone like a rhinoceros. Maybe it sounds better. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Being compassionate to friends and dear ones, having a fatted heart, he neglects his welfare. Seeing such fear in intimacy, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. The attachment towards children and wives is like a bamboo clump, thickly grown and entangled. Being free from entanglement like the new bamboo tip, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Like the unfettered forest deer, roaming and feeding at leisure, let the wise man, observing his freedom, live alone. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. One is petitioned with requests if he is among friends, during rest, whilst being entertained, whilst on a visit, or during a journey, observing the freedom that is not desired by others. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Love of amusement and desire arises in the midst of friends, and there also arises strong attachment for children, loathing the conditions for separation from beloved ones. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. One who has no hatred towards any of the four directions, being contented with little or much, having overcome all danger, fearless, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Some monks are difficult to please, also the laity living the household life. Having become unconcerned about others' children, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Having given up the characteristics of a layman, like the Kovilara tree which has cast off its leaves, having broken the fetters of a household life, the courageous one lives alone. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. If one finds a wise friend, a companion living according to good virtues, prudent and having conquered all dangers, then live with him happily and mindfully. If one does not find a wise friend, a companion living according to good virtues and prudent, then like a ruler who has abandoned his conquered country, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Certainly we praise the acquisition of friendships and friends, those who are either higher or equal in attainment or development should be associated with. Not finding such friends enjoying blameless food, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Having seen the glittering golden armlets well finished by the goldsmith, which strike against each other on one's arm. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Thus, when I live with the second person, I am either compelled to speak too much or to be angry with him. Observing these fears in the future, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Sensuous objects are indeed varied, sweet and delightful, and upset the mind by their illusions. Seeing the unhealthy results of sensuous objects, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Sensuous objects are the cause of calamity, danger, disease, a dart and a fear to me. Observing this danger resulting from sensuous objects, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. There are cold, heat, hunger, thirst, wind, sun, insects, snakes. Having endured all these things, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Like the huge-bodied, white-marked noble elephant wandering in the forest to his heart's content, abandoning his herd, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Even temporary deliverance is impossible to the person who is fond of society. Observing these words of Adicca Bandhu, the Pachika Buddha, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. I have removed wrong views, gained the right path, and indeed arrived at the end. Wisdom is born in me, and I have understood with my own effort. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Being free from greed and deceit, without craving and envy, having removed ignorance, having no desire for anything in the whole world, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. The cynical friend who indulges in mischief, who is attached to wrong views, is to be avoided. Such a friend who is irresponsible should not be associated with. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. One should associate with a friend who is learned, who knows the Dhamma, developed and possessed of knowledge, having known the meaning of things and removed doubts. Let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. One who disdains sport, amusement and worldly pleasure, avoiding a life of self-aggrandizement, speaking the truth, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Having abandoned the excessive desires with regard to son, wife, father, mother, wealth, tangible goods and relations, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Attachment to things is a bond. Here happiness is temporary and sorrow is greater and enjoyment is less. The wise person, knowing this to be like a fish hook in the throat, lives alone. Let one wander like a rhinoceros. Having broken the ties like a fish which has broken the net in the river, like the fire that does not return to a burnt up spot, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. With downcast eyes, not fond of loitering, with guarded sense and restrained mind, which is not soaked by lust and is not burning with it, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Having given up the sartorial or clothing characteristics of the householder, like the parichatta tree with leaves destroyed, having gone forth clad in yellow robes, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Not greedy for delicacies, not disturbed by taste, having no one dependent on him, begging from house to house without any attachment to those families, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Having eliminated the 5 hindrances from the mind, having destroyed all defilements of the mind, having broken the fetters of attachment and being free, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Doing away with happiness and sorrow and the previous mental ease and mental agony, having gained equanimity, calm and pure, let one wander like a rhinoceros. In order to attain the supreme good, being strenuous, prudent, industrious, resolute in perseverance, possessed of the power of strength, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Not abandoning solitude and meditation, living always according to Dhamma, realizing the painful consequences of forms of becoming, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Being diligent, aspiring to the eradication of craving, skilled, learned, mindful, proficient to examine the Dhamma, sure in the path, energetic, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Like a lion not frightened by noises, like the wind not caught in a net, like a lotus not defiled by the water, let one wander like a rhinoceros. As a lion, the king of beasts, strong with his teeth, roams overcoming other beasts, living in solitary surroundings, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. Practicing loving kindness, equanimity, compassion, liberation, and joy at the appropriate time, unobstructed by all the world, let one wander alone like the rhinoceros. Having discarded lust, anger, and delusion, having broken the fetters, entertaining no fear in death, let one wander alone like the rhinoceros. Many keep companionship and associate with each other for the sake of self-advantage. Today, it is difficult to find friends free from ulterior motives. They are clever enough to obtain personal advantages and therefore are despicable. Knowing this, let one wander alone like a rhinoceros. That's the end of this sutta. So you see, this sutta is very ascetic and very inspiring. If a person really wants to attain liberation in this lifetime, he has to follow this sutta, wander alone like a rhinoceros. Very few people will have the courage to do this. 1.4 Kasi Bharat Vajja Sutta. This sutta is also found in Sutta Nikaya 7.1. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha was dwelling in a Brahmin village called Ekkanala, situated in the district of Dakshinagiri in the country of Magadha. At that time, being the sowing season, 500 ploughs owned by the Brahmin Kasi Bharat Vajja were set to work. In the morning then, the Buddha, having robed himself and taking his bowl and robe, went to that place where Kasi Bharat Vajja's work was in progress. It was lunchtime, and the food was being distributed by the Brahmin. When the Buddha arrived at the place where the food was being distributed, he stood aside. The Brahmin, seeing the Buddha standing for alms, said thus, O recluse, I plough and sow, and having ploughed and sown, I eat. You also, recluse, should plough and sow, and having ploughed and sown, you should eat. And the Buddha said, I too, Brahmin, plough and sow, and having ploughed and sown, I eat. And he said, we see neither yoke, nor plowshare, nor goat, nor oxen of the Venerable Gotama, and yet you say, I too, Brahmin, plough and sow, and having ploughed and sown, I eat. Thereupon, Kasi Bharat Vajja addressed the Buddha in this stanza, you claim to be a farmer, yet we do not see your ploughing. Being questioned by us about your ploughing, tell us in such a manner that we may know of it. And the Buddha said, confidence is the seed, self-control the rain, wisdom my yoke and plough, modesty is my pole, mine is the rope, mindfulness my plowshare and goat. Stop for a moment. This confidence, you can translate it as faith. Faith is the seed, self-control the rein, wisdom my yoke and plow, modesty is my pole, mind is the rope, mindfulness my plowshare and goat. Bodily action is well guarded, speech is well guarded. Moderate in food, I make truth the destroyer of weeds and calm my release. Exertion is my yoke oxen, which carries me towards Nibbana. It goes onward without stopping. Having gone there, one has no regrets. In this way, the ploughing is done. It bears the fruit of immortality. Having accomplished this ploughing, one becomes free from all suffering. Then Kasi Bharat Vajja filled a large golden bowl with milk rice and offered it to the Buddha, saying, let the Venerable Gotama eat the milk rice. You are a farmer by reason of that ploughing. It bears indeed the fruit of immortality. And the Buddha said, What is obtained by chanting hymns is not to be eaten by me. This is Brahmin, not the practice of those who see rightly. The Buddhas refuse what is obtained by chanting hymns. You should serve other food and drink to an accomplished great sage who is free from the mental impurities and remorse. That is the field for him who seeks merits. And Brahmin said, then Venerable Gotama, to whom should I give this milk rice? And the Buddha said, Brahmin, in the world which includes gods, Maras, Brahmas, and among Brahmins and men, I do not see anyone except a Tathagata or a disciple of the Tathagata by whom this milk rice, when eaten, can be properly digested. Therefore, Brahmin, you had better cast this milk rice either in a place where there is no grass or float it in water where there are no living creatures. So Kasi Bharadvaja floated the milk rice in water which contained no life, whereupon it made a hissing sound with much steam and smoke emanating from all sides, just as a plowshare, when heated all day and plunged into water, produces a hissing sound and emits steam and smoke on all sides. Then Kasi Bharadvaja, greatly excited and with hair standing on end, approached the Buddha and fell with his head at the Master's feet, saying, It is amazing, Venerable Gotama. It is wonderful, Venerable Gotama. Just as if one might raise what had been overturned, or reveal what has been hidden, or point out the way to him who has gone astray, or hold out a lamp in the dark so that those who have eyes may see objects. So likewise has the truth been explained by Venerable Gotama in various ways. Therefore I take refuge in him, his Dhamma and his Sangha. I wish to enter the homeless life and to receive the higher ordination near the Venerable Gotama. Then Kasi Bharadvaja received ordination as a novice and received the higher ordination near the Buddha. Later, by leading a secluded life, diligently, energetically, and with a resolute will, in a short time he understood, experienced and attained that highest perfection of a noble life, for which the sons of good families leave the household life harmoniously and take to the life of homelessness. Rebirth has been ended, a noble life has been led, what was to be done had been done, and there was nothing else to be done in this earthly existence. Kasi Bharadvaja had become one of the Arahants. This year, Indians, when they meet a holy man, and they are impressed by the holy man, seems like quite easy for them to renounce. Very difficult for Chinese, Chinaman, very hard to let go. 1.5 Chunda Sutta. Chunda asked the Buddha, I asked the sage Buddha of great wisdom, Lord of Dhamma, who is free from craving, the noblest of men, the noblest of guides, how many kinds of monks are there in the world? Please tell me. And the Buddha said, Chunda, there are 4 kinds of monks, not a 5th. I shall elucidate them to you, since you ask me. 1. One kind has won the path. One expounds the path. One lives on the path, and one defiles the path. And Chunda asked, whom does the Buddha describe as one who has won the path? How does the one who expounds the path become incomparable? Tell me about the one who lives on the path, and then explain to me the one who defiles the path. And the Buddha said, one who overcomes uncertainty, is freed from sorrow, delights in Nibbana, is detached, a guide of men and gods. Such a person is said by the Buddhas to be one who has won the path. Here one knows Nibbana as the noblest state and expounds and explains the Dhamma. That sage who destroys uncertainty is desireless. This second of monks is called the one who expounds the path. One who has controlled himself mindfully lives well on the path according to the words of the Dhamma well expounded. One who practices correct principles. This third of monks is called the one who lives on the path. That means an Arya. One who disguises himself by wearing the robes of the well-conducted ones, travels for gain, disgraces families, is impudent, deceitful, unrestrained, a gossip and waffler pretending to be a real monk. He is one who defiles the path. Having comprehended these four, he who is well versed, householder, who is a noble, wise disciple, and who has understood that all of them are not alike, seeing thus, he does not diminish his confidence or faith. How could the defiled one and the undefiled one, the pure and the impure, be considered as equals? So here there are four types of monk. One who is liberated, the second one is who is liberated and teaches the Dhamma. The third one is one on the path, he is most likely an Arya. And the fourth one is one who disgraces the path, a false monk. The next sutta is very interesting. 1.6 Parabhava Sutta. This sutta is not found elsewhere. It's about how a person has a downfall. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha was living near Savatthi in the Jeta Grove at Anathapindika's monastery. Then one beautiful night, a certain Devata, having illuminated the whole Jeta Grove with surpassing splendor, came to the Buddha and, making salutations, stood on one side and uttered these words. I wish to ask you, Gotama, about a person who suffers downfall. I have approached you in order to inquire as to the causes of downfall. And the Buddha said, easily known is the progressive one, easily known the one who declines. He who loves Dhamma progresses, he who hates it declines or has a downfall. One who loves the company of the evil finds no delight with the virtuous. He prefers the doctrine of the evil. This is a cause for one's downfall. Being fond of sleep, talkative, lethargic, lazy and irritable, this is a cause of one's downfall. He who, being sufficiently affluent, does not support his father and mother who are old and infirm, this is a cause of one's downfall. He who deceives by falsehood, a Brahmin, recluse, or any other ascetic, this is the cause of one's downfall. Here this priest and monk actually is Brahmana and Samana, the two classes of recluses or ascetics during the Buddha's time. Those who come from the Brahmin caste are called Brahmana. Those who come from the other caste are called Samana. Having ample wealth, assets and property, enjoying them alone, this is the cause of one's downfall. If a man is conceited through his birth, wealth or community and looks down on his own kith and kin, that means relations, this is a cause of one's downfall. To be a womanizer, a drunkard, a gambler, and to squander all one earns, this is a cause of one's downfall. Not to be contented with one's wife, but to be seen with a prostitute or the wives of others, this is a cause of one's downfall. Being past one's youth, to take a young wife, and to be unable to sleep for jealousy of her, this is a cause of one's downfall. This is what Hokkiens call lao hiao. Old already, take a young wife, and always thinking the wife may be talking to another man, cannot sleep. To place in authority a woman given to drink and squandering, or a man of like behavior, this is a cause of one's downfall. This one, that means you appoint a manager to take care of your business, and this manager does not have sila. A person who looks after your property or whatever, if he does not have sila, he will squander away all the property. If a member of an influential family with vast ambition and of slender means seeks power or control over others, this is a cause of one's downfall. This one refers to somebody over ambitious, overstretching yourself. You don't know your blessings are limited. So just like some people where they do business, when their business is small, they are very successful. When their business becomes very big, suddenly they collapse. They don't have the blessings, enough blessings. Reflecting thoroughly on those causes of downfall in the world, the wise one, endowed with insight, enjoys bliss in a happy state. At the end of the sutta. So this sutta is quite interesting. So many causes So many reasons, so many ways a person can have a downfall. The first one is very important. One who does not appreciate the Dhamma, so he lives his life not in accordance with Dhamma, so he will have a downfall. Not only in this lifetime, even in future lifetimes. But if we appreciate the Dhamma and we live according to Dhamma, then we will always progress. This type of suttas is good to copy it and read it again and again. 1.7 Vassala Sutta, about the outcast. Thus have I heard, once the Buddha was living near Savatthi, the Jeta grove at Anathapindika's monastery. Then in the forenoon or morning, having robed himself and taking his bowl, he entered Savatthi for alms. At that time, in the house of the Brahmin Agika Bharadvaja or Agi Bharadvaja, the fire worshipper, a fire was lit and the objects for sacrifice were made ready. Then the Buddha, going from house to house, came to the Brahmin's abode. Seeing the Buddha approaching, he shouted, "Stop there, shaveling! Stop there, ascetic! Stop there, outcast!" And the Buddha calmly replied, "O Brahmin, can you recognize an outcast or know those things that constitute an outcast?" And he said, "No, indeed, Master Gotama, I cannot recognize an outcast or know those things that constitute an outcast. It would be profitable, therefore, Master Gotama, if you were to enlighten me on this matter." Stop here for a moment. So this person is quite straightforward also. He admits that he doesn't know what is an outcast. The Buddha continued, "Very well, Brahmin, listen and bear well in your mind what follows. Whoever is angry, harbors ill will, is evil-minded and envious, whose views are delusive, who is deceitful, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever destroys life or takes life, whether bird or animal, insect or fish, has no compassion for life, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever is destructive or aggressive in town and country and is a known vandal or thug, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever steals what is considered to belong to others, whether it be situated in villages or the forest, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever, having contracted debts, defaults when asked to pay and retorts, "I am not indebted to you," he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever kills a man going along the road, desirous of stealing even a trifle, and takes such a trifle thing, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever commits perjury either for his own benefit, for that of others, or for the sake of profit, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever has illicit affairs with the wives of his relatives or friends, either by force or through mutual consent, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever does not support his father or mother, who are old and infirm, being himself in a prosperous position, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever strikes or abuses by words, either father, mother, brother, sister, or mother-in-law, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever, being asked for good advice, teaches what is misleading or speaks in obscure terms, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever, having committed an offense, wishes to conceal it from others and is a hypocrite, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever, having gone to another's house and taken advantage of the hospitality there, does not reciprocate in like manner, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever deceives a Brahmin or a recluse or any other ascetic, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever abuses with words and does not serve a Brahmin or a recluse coming for a meal, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever, being enmeshed in ignorance, makes untrue predictions for paltry gain, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever exalts himself and despises others, smug in his self-conceit, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever is a provoker of quarrels or is avaricious, has malicious desires, is envious, shameless, and has no qualms in committing evil, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever insults the Buddha or his disciples, whether renounced ones or laymen, he is to be known as an outcast. Whoever, not being an arahant, pretends to be one, he is indeed the greatest rogue in the whole world, the lowest outcast of all. Thus have I exposed those who are outcasts. One does not become an outcast by birth. One does not become a brahmana by birth, a holy man. It is by deed that one becomes an outcast. It is by deed that one becomes a brahmana. Stop here for a moment. So you see the 20, the lowest outcast, the lowest type of person is one who is not a holy man. He pretends to be a holy man. Such people, they are heading for hell. That's why there's a Thai saying that if you go to hell, there's a lot of people in yellow robes. So sometimes people try to hint they have psychic power or say they have psychic power. This is a very low outcast. Now listen, and I will give you an illustration. Once there was the son of an outcast whose name was Matanga of the Sopaka caste. He attained the pinnacle of fame, and when he had done so, warriors, Brahmins, and many others came to serve him. Having destroyed worldly passions, he entered that noble path and reached the Brahma world. Caste did not prevent him from being born in the heavenly realm. Those Brahmins who are familiar with the Vedas and who are born in a family which recites the Vedas, if they are addicted to evil deeds, they are not only disgraced in this life itself, but in the next they are born in a state of suffering. Caste does not prevent them from disgrace or birth in a painful state. One does not become an outcast by birth. One does not become a brahmana by birth. It is by deed that one becomes an outcast. It is by deed that one becomes a brahmana, a holy man. When the Buddha had spoken, the Brahmin Agika Bharadvaja exclaimed, "It is amazing, Venerable Gotama. It is wonderful, Venerable Gotama. It is as if one might raise what has been overturned, or reveal what had been hidden, or point out the way to him who has gone astray, or hold out a lamp in the dark, so that those who have eyes may see objects. So likewise has the truth been explained by Venerable Gotama in various ways. Therefore I take refuge in him, his Dhamma and Sangha. May the Venerable Gotama accept me as a lay follower, who henceforth has taken refuge in him for the rest of his life." A lot of Brahmins, they think very highly of the Brahmin caste. So they always like to come and challenge the Buddha. So the Buddha has to talk like this. The next sutta is 1.8, Metta Sutta, also found in the Khuddaka Pata, the first book of the Khuddaka Nikaya. The Buddha says, "He who is skilled in welfare, who wishes to attain that calm state, should act thus. He should be able, upright, perfectly upright, of noble speech, gentle and humble." This is the chant we always do. Karanya matta kusalena yantang santang padang abhisamecha, etc. Contented, easily supported, with few duties of light livelihood, with senses calmed, discreet, not impudent, not greedily attached to families. He should not pursue the slightest thing for which otherwise men might censure him. May all beings be happy and secure. May their hearts be wholesome. Whatever living beings there be, feeble or strong, tall, stout or medium, short, small or large, without exception, seen or unseen, those dwelling far or near, those who are born or those who are to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, nor despise any person whatsoever in any place. Let him not wish any harm to another out of anger or ill will. Just as a mother would protect her only child, at the risk of her own life. Even so, let him cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. Let his thoughts of boundless love pervade the whole world, above, below, and across, without any obstruction, without any hatred, without any enmity. Whether he stands, walks, sits, or lies down, as long as he is awake, he should develop this mindfulness. This, they say, is the noblest living here. Not falling into wrong views, being virtuous and endowed with insight, by discarding attachment to sense desires, never again is he reborn. You see, one thing very good about our Buddha's teaching is that we see all beings as related to us. The Buddha says it's very difficult to find a being you meet who has not been your father, your mother, your relative before. And understanding that we go on the cycle of rebirth again and again, so we understand this is very probable. So we don't discriminate on religion, we don't discriminate on race and all that. So we practice loving kindness, and we have no reason to kill people. So the Buddha's teaching, if we practice the Buddha's teaching, we never go to war. The Buddha's religion, very peaceful religion in the world. 1.9 Hemavatta Sutta. This about two yakas. The yaka Satagira said, today is the full moon day of the lunar month. The divine night has approached. Let's see Master Gotama, the teacher, perfectly named. So this Satagira, he has a faith in the Buddha, whereas his friend Hemavatta does not yet. The Yaka Hemavatta said, is the steadfast one's mind well directed towards all beings? Has he brought his thoughts as regards pleasant and unpleasant things under his control? And Satagira said, the steadfast one's mind is well directed towards all beings. Moreover, he has brought his thoughts as regards pleasant and unpleasant things under his control. That means he is well directed to all beings. That means he has loving kindness towards all beings. And as regards pleasant and unpleasant things, he is not greedy for pleasant things and averse to unpleasant things. And Hemavatta says, does he not steal? Is he self-controlled towards living beings? Is he far from being lethargic or lazy? Does he not give up meditation? And Satagira said, he does not steal. His attitude is one of self-control towards living beings. He is far from being lethargic. The enlightened one does not abandon meditation. And Hemavatta says, does he not speak falsehood? Does he not use harsh words? Does he not say things which cause distress? Does he not indulge in frivolous talk? And Satagira said, he does not speak falsehood, neither does he use harsh words, nor does he say things which cause distress. He speaks only wise and useful things. And Hemavatta asked, is he not attached to worldly pleasures? Is his mind undisturbed? Has he overcome delusion? Has he acquired insight into all things? And Satagira answered, he is not attached to worldly pleasures. His mind is undisturbed. All his delusion has vanished. The enlightened one possesses insight into all things. And Hemavatta asked, is he endowed with knowledge? Is his conduct pure? Has he destroyed all passions? Has he brought to an end the cycle of rebirth? And Satagira says, he is endowed with knowledge. His conduct is pure. He has destroyed all passions. He will not be subject to further rebirth. And Hemavatta said, the sage's mind is filled with good speech and action. He possesses right knowledge and conduct. Let's go and see Gotama. The sage Gotama limbed like the antelope, lean, firm, taking little food, not greedy, who meditates in the jungle. Let's go and see him. Having approached him, who is like a lion, who lives alone, who is indifferent to worldly pleasures, let's ask for an escape from the snare of death. And both of them asked the Buddha. We ask Gotama, the enlightened one, who declares the Dhamma, who expounds the Dhamma, who has realized all truth, who has overcome hatred and fear. And Himavata asks, upon what is the world produced? With what is the world intimate? After having clung to what, by what is the world troubled? And the Buddha said, Himavata, in 6 is the world produced, with 6 it is intimate. After having clung to 6, by 6 the world is troubled. This 6, I think, refers to the 6 spaces, the 6 sense spaces, because the 6 sense spaces produces the world in consciousness. And Himavata asks, what is that attachment by which the world is troubled? Please tell us the means of deliverance. How does the world escape from misery? And the Buddha said, having destroyed the desire of the 6 sensual pleasures in the world, of the 5 sensual pleasures in the world, and that of mind, the 6th sense, one escapes from misery. This is the salvation of the world. I have told you as it is. This alone I tell you. Thus the world escapes from misery. And Himavata asks, who is the one who crosses the flood? Who is the one who crosses the sea without a footing, and when not supported, who will not sink in the deep ocean and sea? And the Buddha said, one who is always virtuous, wise, well concentrated, reflects within himself and mindful, he crosses the flood which is difficult to cross. Abstaining from lustful thoughts and having broken all fetters, being one in whom desire for existence is extinct, he will not sink into the deep. And Himavata says, look at that great sage who possesses deep wisdom, who is subtle in realizing the truth, passionless, not attached to worldly pleasures, free from all fetters, and who walks on the superhuman path. Look at that great sage of perfect name, who is subtle in realizing the truth, who imparts wisdom, who is not attached to worldly pleasures, who is all-knowing, whose wisdom is perfect, who walks on the noble path. A good sight indeed has arisen today, a good daybreak, a beautiful arising, for we have seen the perfectly enlightened one, who has crossed the flood, who is free from passions. These 1,000 Devas assembled here, who possess supernatural power and fame, all take refuge in you. You are our noble teacher. Thus we shall wander from village to village and mountain to mountain, paying our respects to the enlightened one and to his Dhamma, which is well preached. So these Devas, they come and ask questions. When the Buddha answers the questions, they become his disciples. 1.10 Uragavagga Sutta. This sutta is also found in Sutta Nikaya 10.12. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha was dwelling in the residence of the Yaka, Uragavagga, near the town of Alavi. Then Uragavagga came to the Buddha and shouted, "Get out, recluse!" By the way, it seems the Buddha was around that area. Then the wives of this Yaka, Uragavagga, they came to talk to the Buddha. And then after talking to the Buddha, they invited the Buddha into their city, which was supposed to be like in a huge tree or something like that. So the Buddha went inside. And then when Uragavagga came back, he saw all his wives talking to the Buddha. He got jealous. Then Uragavagga came to the Buddha and shouted, "Get out, recluse." The Buddha departed, saying, "Very well, friend." The Yaka then ordered, "Come in, recluse." And saying, "Yes, friend," the Buddha entered. For a second time, the Yaka shouted thus to the Buddha, "Get out, recluse." The Buddha again departed, saying, "Very well, friend." For a second time, the Yaka ordered, "Come in, recluse." Saying, "Yes, friend," the Buddha again entered. For a third time also, the Yaka shouted, "Get out, recluse." And for a third time, the Buddha departed, saying, "Very well, friend." However, when Uragavagga shouted his orders to the Buddha, yet again the Buddha retorted, I will not obey you, and you can do whatever you like about it. And he said, I shall put a question to you then, recluse, and if you do not answer, I will derange your mind, or make you mad, or tear out your heart, or take you by the feet and throw you to the other side of the river. And the Buddha said, I do not see, friend, in the world of gods, Maras, Brahmas, or men, anyone who could do to me such as you say. However, friend, proceed with your question. And Uragavagga asked, what is the best wealth to a man in this world? What is the good practice that brings happiness? What is the sweetest of all tastes? What manner of living is said to be the noblest kind? And the Buddha said, confidence or faith is the best wealth to a man in this world. Well-practiced Dhamma brings the most happiness. Truth is the sweetest of all tastes. Living with wisdom is said to be the noblest kind. And Uragavagga again asked, how does one cross the flood of recurrent birth? How does one cross the sea of existence? How does one transcend unhappiness? How does one get purified? And the Buddha said, one crosses the flood of samsara by confidence or faith. One crosses the sea of existence by vigilance. One transcends unhappiness by strenuous effort. One purifies oneself by wisdom. Stop here for a moment. One transcends unhappiness by strenuous effort. You know, when a monk first renounces, there'll be a lot of thoughts troubling him. The thoughts always bring him back to his home. And the Buddha says that to overcome these thoughts that trouble the new monk, he should practice satipatthana. Satipatthana means intense state of recollection. For example, the first meditation the Buddha taught is chanting the 32 parts of the body, head, hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bone, marrow, kidney, heart, etc. So if a monk keeps chanting this, then the mind does not stray, go back to the home. So in the same way, when we have unhappiness, unhappiness is due to a lot of thinking, proliferation of thoughts. These thoughts multiply and disturb us. So we do all this, keep the mind very occupied. That's why it says strenuous effort. All the time you must use effort, and then the mind does not disturb you. And then Uragavagga again asks, how does one acquire knowledge? How does one obtain wealth? How does one attain fame? How does one gain friends? How does one not repent, passing from this world to the next? And the Buddha says, one acquires knowledge by reposing confidence or trust and listening or faith and listening to the Dhamma of the Arahants for the attainment of Nibbana, being diligent and attentive. One who does what is proper, one who is resolute, one who is industrious, acquires wealth. One attains fame by truth. One who gives gains friends. If you are always generous, you'll have a lot of friends. The confident householder in whom there are 4 virtues, truthfulness, goodness, energy and generosity, will not repent after his death. And the Buddha said, I challenge you to consult other ascetics and Brahmins to ascertain whether there can be any other qualities higher than truth, self-control, generosity and patience. And Uragavagga said, why should I consult other ascetics and Brahmins? Today I know which one will prove for my good in the future. The Buddha indeed came to my residence near Alavi for my benefit. Today I know what should be given to achieve great results. From today I will wander from village to village, from town to town, paying my respects to the fully enlightened one and to his perfect teaching. So this fierce Yaka converted and became a protector of the Buddha. 1.11 Vijaya Sutta. It's about reflection of the unattractive nature of the body, the 32 parts of the body. Anyone, if either walking, standing, sitting or lying down, contracts or stretches his body, such is motion of the body. The body is put together with bones and sinews, plastered with skin and flesh, whose real nature is not perceived. It is filled with intestines in the stomach. It should be intestines in the abdomen. The lump of the liver in the abdomen, the bladder, heart, lungs, kidneys and spleen, with mucus, saliva, perspiration, lymph, blood, the synovial fluid, bile and fat. Then in 9 streams, impurity constantly oozes from the eye, excrement, from the ear, excrement, from the nose, mucus. Sometimes the body emits vomit from the mouth and ejects bile and phlegm. From the body flows sweat and dirt. The cavity of the head is filled with the brain, but the fool, because of his ignorance, regards it as a fine thing. When the body lies dead, swollen and livid, cast away in the cemetery, the relatives do not care for it. Dogs, jackals, wolves, worms, crows and vultures and other living beings eat it. In the world, the monk who is wise, listening to the Buddha's word, fully comprehends the body and sees it in its true perspective. He compares his body to a corpse, and thinking that this body is the same as a corpse, and a corpse is the same as this body, he removes desire for his own body. In the world, such a wise monk who is freed from desire and attachment attains the immortal, tranquil and deathless state of Nibbana. The body is impure, bad-smelling, and replete with various kinds of stench, which trickle here and there. If one, possessed of such a body, thinks highly of himself and despises others, that is due to nothing other than his lack of insight. So when we are young, we think we are very beautiful, very handsome, and we look at old people and we tend to despise old people looking so ugly. But actually very soon we will also grow old and look ugly, and then very soon our body will turn into a corpse. So here the Buddha says we must compare your body to the corpse and realize your body is the same as the corpse, and the corpse is the same as your body in a very short time. So that will help you to not be so vain about the body. Come to the last sutta of the chapter, 1.12. Muni Sutta. Muni is a sage. Fear arises because of intimacy. Sensual desire is born of the household life. Homelessness and detachment is therefore appreciated by the sage. One who cuts off defilements that have arisen, who would not plant them again, and who would not enter into what is being grown. He is said to be the solitary wandering sage. That great sage has seen the state of peace. Having considered the ground, having discarded the seed, and not supplying moisture for the growth of that seed, having abandoned sophistry, that sage who has seen the end of birth cannot be categorically described. He who has known all kinds of birth, but does not desire to enter into any of them, such a sage is freed from greed and desire. He toils not, for he has reached the other shore. One who has overcome all, who knows all, who is intelligent, who does not cling to any object, who has abandoned everything, who has freed himself by destroying desire, is called a sage by the wise. One who possesses the strength of wisdom, born of the moral precepts and restraints, who is tranquil in mind and delights in meditation, who is mindful, freed from attachment, freed from mental barrenness and the asavas, is called a sage by the wise. The sage who wanders alone, who is diligent and undisturbed by praise or blame, not frightened by noises like a lion, not caught in a net like the wind, not soiled by water like the lotus, leading others but not led by others, is called a sage by the wise. One who is firm as the post in a bathing place, control over what others say, who is passionless, whose senses are well composed, is called a sage by the wise. One who is firm-minded and straight as a shuttle, who despises evil actions, investigating what is good and bad, is called a sage by the wise. One who is self-restrained and does not commit evil, that wise one, whether young or middle-aged, whose mind is well restrained, who is not provoked and does not provoke others, is called a sage by the wise. The monk who depends on others, who does not praise or blame the giver when he has received alms, either from the top or the middle portion or the remainder, and who neither flatters nor treats with disrespect, is called a sage by the wise. The sage who wanders alone, who has abstained from sexual intimacy, who even in his youth is not attached to anything, who has detached himself from pride and indolence, is called a sage by the wise. One who has known the world, who has perceived the highest truth, who has crossed the flood and sea of existence, who has cut the ties of rebirth, who has no clinging to sense objects, who is free from the asavas, is called a sage by the wise. The sage who is accustomed to living in distant places, the egoless and well-conducted one, and the householder who supports a family, they are not equal, for the householder is unrestrained and destroys life. The sage is well restrained and protects living beings. The blue-necked peacock, which flies through the air, never approaches the speed of the swan. Similarly, the householder can never resemble the monk who is endowed with the qualities of a sage, who meditates aloof in the forest. That's the end of the sutta and the chapter. So you see, all these verses are very inspiring, always encouraging a monk to wander alone, to live alone. This lonely life, if you are not used to it, can be a lot of suffering. But when you get used to it, you like to be alone. Anything to discuss? You can see from these suttas why I say the Sutta Nipata is the most important or the best book in the Khuddaka, Nikaya. And next to this is the Dhammavuddho. Dhammavuddho also has a lot of Dhamma inside. Where is that? Page 21? 22. Which fear arises because of intimacy. When you are intimate with people, you fear losing them. Those you love.
Why can't the Buddha accept the view after chanting the hymn?
Why can't the Buddha accept the food after saying those words? The Buddha says he does not chant for his meal. So, in other words, what a lot of monks are doing is wrong. Just like the Patwi, collect money after the chanting is against the Buddha's teaching. So people give because they want to give, not because you see, after the Buddha said those words and you give, it's like the Buddha begging you to give. So that's why the Buddha said, throw away that food. If you want to give another portion, not that food. Yes. Not exactly, because this one is the way the Buddha said, is that convincing him to give like that. So that is wrong. Or if you do the chanting as a means of livelihood, like we do the chanting, transference of merit is different. So like the chanting transference of merit is after the food is given, and that is also for the departed. Arahanthood is achieved not only by listening to the Dhamma, but by having the 4 jhanas. So, those devas who come to listen to the Dhamma generally are those that are nearby in the sensual desire realm, and they don't have the 4 jhanas. So, usually after listening to the Dhamma, they attain stream entry. They understand and attain stream entry. So, from the suttas we find generally there's the highest they attain, because other higher stage than stream entry you have to meditate. Yeah. So they have so much, they are so busy with enjoyment and no time to meditate. That is provided you practice. If you don't practice, then being a deva is better. Yes, if a person has 4 jhanas, but he must know the Dhamma. If he does not know the Dhamma, then the most is he has psychic power, external sex ascetics. But even external sex ascetics, when they have 4 jhanas, Mara cannot sit still. He's afraid they become enlightened, so he come and disturb. So as long as you have not attained the 4th jhana, don't worry that Mara will come and disturb you. Okay, shall we end here?